Hey there. My name is Dr. Garrett Hope. I am a composer, coach, podcaster, and speaker. I've been focused on building my music business since 2014 and helping others build theirs since 2015. I want to tell you about the second annual Ultimate Music Business Summit we are organizing. It'll take place early January of 2022. There will be dozens of presentations with highly actionable content, all of it available to you so you can start your business, grow your business, and ultimately make more money. Because here's the deal. Unless you earn all of your income from an employer, you are a self-employed small business owner. And if you want to do more than survive, if you want to grow your audience, or if you want to impact more people, you have to think and act like a business owner. And that means this summit is for you. This summit will give you real-world, not theoretical, strategies you can implement immediately. You don't need to be stuck with fear or living in your failures. I promise you, with all the teachers lined up, you will get something you've never thought of before. Even though building a business is hard, no one is promising it's easy. It is possible. You just need the right tools and strategies. Tickets for this virtual event will go on sale soon. To be the first in line and to get more information about the summit, presenters, and more, go to musicsummit.biz. That's musicsummit.biz and add your email to the list.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tuned and Strong podcast. This is Dr. Jen Cabas-May of Tuned and Toned Performance.
And this is my lovely co-host, Angela McCuiston of Music Strong. And today we're going to unpack something that Angela was telling me about. So why don't you go ahead and tell me what you came across here?
Yeah, guys. So if you are on Instagram at all, which is most of this came from Instagram, there is a group. There's a duo of lovely people from across the pond in the UK, and their handle is Things Musicians Don't Talk About. TMDA podcast, if you want to look that up. And they just finished their inaugural Musicians Injury Awareness Week. I was last. It was nice. I thought it was kind of cool. They bookended the Americans. So Francesca Leo of Playing Without Pain was last Sunday or Monday. And then they had this whole series of UK based musicians telling their stories. And then I was last, which I was like, oh, that's appropriate. I like that.
There you go.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I mean, if you haven't gone and listened to it, please go subscribe to their podcast and go listen. These are all really short, easily digestible. And what was amazing was they were so relatable. It's like, oh my gosh, how many times have I heard this story? But then again, it was also, oh wow, I can't believe I'm hearing this again and again.
Yeah.
And it was it's a story we keep hearing, or if we haven't heard it, we're shocked that we keep hearing it. That's the same thing, right? So there was a whole series of musicians that had injuries, and it was their experiences. And they had everything from flute players, obviously, with the flute players book ended it, which I thought was funny. And we had a vocalist, there was a string player, there was a whole host of people. But we're going to divide this into a quick 3-part series so you can make this a little more easily digestible.
Yeah.
But there was some overarching themes. And one of them was this same thought of, if I hurt and if I admit it, or if I tell somebody, I'm going to get behind. I'm going to fall behind. I'm not going to either graduate. I'm not going to be able to do the gig. I'm not going to be able to fulfill this responsibility. I'm just going to fall behind, and I can't afford to take time off.
Yep. Yeah.
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 So I'm not sure how we want to start with this, but
this is one of those overarching themes that, it's like whenever we do this podcast, half the time I'm like, yeah, it sounds a little bit self-serving, right? Because we're both strength coaches who offer services, and so it sounds a little self-serving to say I've heard this a lot. I've been through it myself. And, but it's something that keeps coming. Well, I can't. I'm going to get behind. The getting behind is the exact phrase. And what's funny is, like you said, it doesn't matter if this is a student or a professional and it's all about expectations, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to reference some Brene Brown here, who is awesome. She's awesome. If you haven't
We know
listened
she's
to
your
her,
girl.
go look her up right now. It's fine. Um, but she talks about expectations and how expectations get you in trouble a lot, and how they can cause problems that don't really exist. You know, like she talks about a vacation where she's like trying to apply these concepts in her own life, and she and her family are preparing for a vacation, and they're going to, I think it was one of the theme parks with the kids. And her husband's watching her pack, and he's watching her put like 3 different books into her suitcase. And a couple of, and he goes, he goes, "What you doing?" Basically. She's like, "Oh, well, I'm bringing these books. I'm going to read them while we're on vacation." He's like, you're setting yourself up for disappointment here. Like, we're taking the kids to a theme park. And she gets all upset at first, and then she realizes that he's talking about that expectations thing that she laid out, and she realized she had done this in the past. You bring the books with you, and then you're upset because you don't have time, and you feel like you've either let yourself down or you've let your profession down, or whatever it was that you wanted to read the books for, because you didn't read them. But it's because you thought that you were going to have time to read books while you were bringing children to a theme park. Which, from an outside perspective, sounds just ridiculous.
Sounds
you know,
funny
like,
from outside.
You're bringing kids to a theme park. When do you, like, you'll be lucky to sleep and eat, okay?
That was not her train of thought at all, though. It was not.
But we've all been on that other side where we think, no, this is totally reasonable. It's downtime. And it's directly applicable to what we're talking about here professionally, right? Because I'm going to count students as a professional thing here, because you're in professional training. But we think about, and I've talked about this in other podcasts, like, well, I'm not going to graduate on time.
On time for who?
On time for who? I would understand a little bit more of that from a scholarship perspective. You know, if you're an undergrad and you've got a 4-year scholarship, if you're a grad student and you've got an assistantship, most likely they're going to extend your assistantship most of the time. You know what I mean?
Where did the 4 years come from anyway?
Well,
who decided that? I mean, I just realized this. I mean, when did this become a thing that you have to do school in 4 years? Where did that come from? Do you know?
College structure is actually built around Catholic priest training, medieval Catholic priest training. We don't talk about that either.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
No way. I didn't know this.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you shouldn't go on a rabbit hole, but
no, but think about that. Medieval Catholic priest training. Think about how old that is.
No cell phones, no internet. I mean,
and you're only studying to be a Catholic priest. That's it.
Meaning you have no other jobs, no duties, no.
You have no other. The church is taking care of you. You're being put up room and board. You have a job when you graduate.
Oh my gosh, this now makes so much more sense now. I didn't know this.
So it just kind of, it's evolved a bit, obviously, because we're not training people just to exclusively be priests now, but that's where it originates from. At least that's the research I did. It was moderately in depth, but that's what I found. So
if you're aiming for 4 years, are you Catholic? Do you want to be a priest? If not, why subscribe to the 4-year plan? Well, unless you're on scholarship, but still.
Beyond that, and a lot of times, by the way, this is what I did. I had a 4-year undergrad scholarship. It was a good one, and I was forced to take time off. And I had that same thing, and I know I talk about myself, but I had that same thing. I'm going to get behind. I'm not going to graduate on time. I'm not going to get to grad school, get my job on time. Like, isn't that funny? In hindsight,
get my job on time. That's even funnier, but we all think that way.
You know, but what ended up happening was I was put in a position where I was forced to take time off. So I went to my mentor and I said, I don't know what to do. I'm going to lose my scholarship. I don't know how I'm going to afford an extra year of undergrad because they won't extend it for 5 years for any reason. It was a state scholarship because that was the best deal. So that's the one I took. And basically what we arranged was he sent me over to the band department. The band department had an allocation every year. Well, the band department, I also had a very good working relationship with. And because I was in state, I was cheap. They replaced my scholarship cost. Now, can everybody get that all the time? No, but there are ways to get it done. You know what I mean? There are always ways to get it done, and it's never as big a deal as we think it's going to be right off the bat. And by putting it off, you're making your injury worse, which means more time off long term, which means more behind schedule. If you're worried about getting behind schedule, deal with it up front. First off, remove that expectation, and second off, deal with it up front.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So
that was the overarching theme of listening to these other musicians who've had these injuries. And we're going to get into more of it down the road here, but they notice something. And the first step, it's not like they're ignoring what's going on. It's just like they notice something and they're like, oh, it's
it'll go away.
Nothing. It'll go away. I'm just going to rest when I'm done with rehearsal or whatever. But then it turns into more of a constant thing. And then they blame themselves. And then they're like, but I can't take time off. I won't graduate on time. Or
I'll lose the next gig.
I'll lose the next gig. Or if I have to say no, what if you're in an orchestra and you're a tenured musician? How does that look? How many subs do they let you take? I don't know.
It depends.
Do they let you do?
I think it depends on the orchestra.
Yeah, I mean, is it like you get one here, or what if you have to have a series? I mean, is that? I mean, I know some are more forgiving than others. So if you look at the TMDA podcast episode, I can't remember his name at the moment. He's I want to say he was a horn player, and he developed, I think it was focal dystonia, and it just got worse. He kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing through it, and then he's like, no, I got to deal with this. And so what was nice, I think he was in the London Symphony. I think this is what it was. I could be wrong, guys. Please go listen and fact check me. But they were nice enough. They're like, no, go deal with it. You're good. You're fine. You go deal with it. And he's like, okay. But then he realized he wasn't getting better. And it was time for him to resign, which was, and you don't want to get to that point. Right. So if you don't take care of something in the beginning, you could get to that point. It's it's just like, I had a new client this morning tell me this morning, she found a small lump, and it was breast cancer. And she said, get your mammectomies, get your mammograms early. Get your mammograms early, because if they catch it early, it's so much better, right? Whether it's a dis-ease or an injury, if you catch it early, you're going to get, quote, back on track so much faster. You're not going to end up wasting time. You end up wasting more time if you ignore things.
Right. And then you get into that position where, I mean, you get yourself into such a bad position. Yeah. And the more you put it off, the worse that feeling of getting behind is going to be for you. So, outside of
be nice to yourself, also
be nice to it. Yeah, be nice to yourself and be on top of it. I mean, it is so worth it to just check in if you're feeling down about where you are or where you want to be, or feeling like something is going to slow you down. It might be time to stop and go, why do I feel like that? Is that a valid assessment, or is it something that I set up in my head that I think is supposed to be right? That's a tough conversation, by the way. That's not an easy thing, but deep down, I think most people know the answer if they're willing to stop and think about it. I think most people know, like, okay, well, I'm supposed to be at this point in my life by this age. And you're the age in question. Let's say at 30, I'm supposed to be X, Y, Z, and I'm not X or Y, and I'm only like halfway through Z. Okay. You hit 30 and you're upset about not being X and Y and missing half of Z. But if you sit down and you go, would it really be right right now, where I am, who I am, what's actually being put in front of me, would it be right for me to be X and Y and have that other half of Z? Or am I really in a spot that's good for who I am in this moment? It's a tough question, I think. You know what I mean?
Well, it also comes back to, where are your expectations coming from?
Yeah. Yes.
How many of our expectations are self-imposed versus externally imposed by previous teachers, by previous experiences, by whatever we think the industry is telling us? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to do, because I'm going to have a hard time coming up with examples that are not specifically me to me. You know what I mean?
That's fine. You can talk about your own experience. It's fine.
I would say that my current example is, I thought by now I should be a tenure track university instructor. You know what I mean? Like assistant professor, on my way to being associate, if not, that's what I thought by my age. And I thought that because I thought that was the only way for me to make a living in my field, doing what I want to do, how I want to do it, at the level I want to do it at, and actually help people. And when I really stopped to think about that, not that I don't want to teach college, I'm not saying that at all. But a lot of what I know, I've talked to you about this, Angela, and what I've been talking a lot about for the last several years is, I get disappointed about not being in that position. I go, well, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that I'm a very stubborn person. I don't like seeing what a student or client needs, knowing what they need, and being put on somebody else's schedule. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. If I know a student in front of me needs another semester of just fundamentals, just foundation, whether that's strength or clarinet or saxophone, I don't care what it is. If they need another semester of foundation and you're going to make them perform, I'm going to be mad.
Yeah.
Because it's taking away from what the student needs or the client needs.
Right.
Now, you're forcing this thing that's going to make them worse instead of better. But I can see what they actually...
Everybody learns at their own rate.
Yes. And that's, as a coach, as an instructor, that's who I am. Very much like, I am not going to, unless it is 100% required, I am not going to make anybody do something I don't think is right for them at the time.
Right.
And if I do, I'm going to be very miserable about it.
Yeah. And that doesn't help anybody in that case.
No. So then why am I so aggravated about not being in a starter job? A starter job is going to have exactly those requirements that I'm complaining about. It's because I'm stubborn.
Being stubborn isn't such a bad thing. It's not always bad.
It's not. And it's something that I accepted a long time ago. Like, this is me. I can't turn that off and be happy at the same time. Okay. So then I need to change that expectation. It needs to be the right job, right, in order for me to do it, or I need to be private, one or the other. Kitty time. If you're watching video, kitty time. So that's my personal example, but it's going to cross apply to people who want orchestra gigs or people who have a touring schedule. Like, well, I thought I'd be with this kind. But is it something that is realistic to expect given what it is you actually want? Are those two in line?
Exactly. And so when it comes to expectations, okay, I'm going to get behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are your expectations realistic is a question.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, if you step back and think about the scope of your life and think about your goals, what is taking a week off or not taking, because I hate the whole thing. Like, I don't want to think like rest is rehab. I don't want to say just take a year off. No. What another overarching theme that was in the Musicians Injury Awareness Week was how many people said, man, I should have listened to more recordings and done more score study and taken more time away from the instrument to get better at the instrument. Now, granted, I don't friggin' care about score study. That's me. But can I go study the actual like piano part? Can I go listen to, like, you know, it depends on your learning style. But another thing you hear a lot is mental practice is so valuable. And if there's one thing we've learned in the last 10 years, it's like, oh my gosh, mental practice is massively huge. And we put so much pressure on ourselves to be in the practice room making noise.
Right.
You can be so effective sitting on a plane, going somewhere with no instrument, in your own head, listening to that piece of music, imagining it's you, imagining your fingers doing what they're, you get the exact same benefit. The studies show you get the neurological benefit is just like you're practicing. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, you're not getting behind.
Right. You're just developing different neurological pathways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what if we think like, okay, what are some realistic expectations that we can have? Getting behind and according to what? Okay, so maybe you've got a recital you've got to do. If you guys have been listening to this podcast for more than 5 minutes, you've heard people who've had to put off their recitals because they've had injuries and they didn't get them. Yeah, exactly. And they didn't get them diagnosed or fixed or whatever. And they just, guys. Let's think about this. How many athletes do we know who had to postpone some kind of big thing because they got injured? Yes. Maybe they had to postpone the Olympics for 4 more years. I mean, and then they come back. Is it their optimal time of life? Maybe they're quote old now and they still dominated it, or they still enjoyed the experience, which is the point, guys. The point is that what we do, we need to enjoy. It's not about performing someone else's expectation. We do this for love of it.
Right. And if you're not anymore, then you've got some thinking to do.
Yeah.
You know, because there is no point in sticking around for this if you don't still love it. And that doesn't make you a failure. That just means that you learned something. And that doesn't mean that you can't play it for fun while doing something else, you know?
Yeah.
But if you do love it and you still find that you're not having fun anymore, but you're not ready to give it up. Okay, well then you need to look at what you're expecting yourself to do versus we wouldn't bat an eye at any of those athletes taking time off. We wouldn't bat an eye at it. Okay, that's normal. But for us, we freak out. You need to treat yourself like a professional competitive athlete.
Absolutely.
And take care of yourself the same way. Now, I do want to respond to your mental practice thing because I've actually come at that from 2 different ways too. And in case anybody out there is in the headspace I was, when my injury started, but I was able to still play all the time. Listening, great, not a problem. That's how I learned jazz. You know what I mean? I absorbed it until I understood the language. But I was still able to play. Yeah. So it wasn't a problem to do that. Once I got into undergrad and my injury really started approaching its height or got to / past its height, I couldn't bring myself to do it. It hurt too bad. Because I'm just sitting there thinking, I want to be playing. I should be playing. I can't, I can't. If I could go back and do it again, and again, I keep saying, I wouldn't change anything because I like where I am in my life in a lot of ways, even though I'm not happy with a lot of things. But I like the lessons I learned. I think they're worth it. But if I wanted to go back and really save my playing at its optimal level, the way that it could have been, what I would have done was combined the body work I know now how to do with mental practice. Because half of what was happening was, it'd be depressing or whatever for me to listen. So I just tense up even harder. But I didn't realize when I was going through all of this that I was tensing when I played. I didn't realize I was gripping. I didn't realize all the places I was gripping because I couldn't feel anything. So if you're in that space where you're taking the time off, but you want a mental practice, but it's kind of like you don't feel like it's worth anything because you're not playing, start some body work first off. I don't care if it's Feldenkrais or Alexander technique or body mapping or strength training. do something where you start learning how to feel your body and then start the mental practice. Listen
That
to
is
the
something that also came out a lot, was just a general overall lack of body awareness, besides the part that was suddenly crying out in, hey, right here, this hurts. Hey, this.
Right.
And they were not aware of it until it hurt.
Yeah.
So if you're not dealing with feeling like Ava, when I was at Florida State, her favorite thing was say, you feel your feet when you play. She would make us stand on one foot like a friggin' flamingo all the time when we played, because it gets you out of your head and gets you into your body. And if you've ever read the Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Gallway, or Inner Game of Music, it takes you out of that negative self-1 or self-2, I forget, but self-talk of like, you're gonna screw up. Now all you're like is, don't fall over. Oh my gosh, don't fall over. Right. And it's brilliant. And it teaches you like, I can really trust myself. And I was just talking with Anna Vitori this afternoon, or this a little while ago. We were talking about focal dystonia. And one of the things that she said a couple of times was like, when you're dealing with focal dystonia, you got to you're forced to take time off, because suddenly things just don't work and you really don't want to get to the position, right?
No.
What she said is, even though you're having to learn a new way to do this and a new way to approach something that you are very perfectionist about, the important thing to remember is back here, you are still that same musician. You still have all that knowledge. You still have all that talent, all that ability. You're the same musician you were. It's still all there. And that's really important to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Your capacity doesn't disappear just because you're dealing with something. And your ability to perform when you come back, if you really put in the time to learn yourself and not just try to get fixed. Don't ever just try to get fixed. It doesn't work. It's not a thing.
It won't work.
But really learn your own body, figure out what's causing the problem in you, not just in, oh, well, I've got this thing. You probably got this thing, whatever that is, for a reason. Once you figure that out, if you really put the effort into it, when you come back, you're going to be a better performer. You're going to be a better instructor. You're going to have more endurance in the long run, because you're going to understand, hey, this is a warning sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
The baby warning signs, you're going to start feeling them and you're going to know. So like for me, if my hips start getting a little tight, I need to get up. That's my hips getting tight, not my forearm seizing.
Yeah.
I can still play the clarinet with tight hips. I just know I need to get up.
I know, right? Like I'm in the same boat with this whole numbness tingling business, and it was relegated just here and it got better, but I've had 2 gigs in 2 weeks. They were both orchestra gigs last minute and they were a lot of fun, but guess what started happening? Both arms are falling numb now. And when I'm asleep, I wake up and my other arm is like, suddenly I can't sleep on either side. I'm noticing like my neck is super tight, especially on the left, where the problem has been on the right. Am I playing flute more? Yes. And guess what I'm noticing when I play flute, not piccolo, but flute. Sometimes I get some tingles, whether it's radial nerve, which is these guys, or ulnar nerve, both of them, which tells me the problems in my neck, which I kind of knew.
Yeah.
But if I had not had to go through this whole thing, I would not be so much more like, number one, I've got to advocate for myself. 2, I've got to know, who do I reach out to? And I got to reach out to them right now. Rest is not going to fix this. Also, I can't rest. I can't sleep. And I'm in the military. I'm a personal trainer and I'm a flute player. And this affects all 3 jobs. Unacceptable. Yes. So we have to go take care of this right now. If I just ignore it, guess what? This has been 2 years of this. We don't need this on both sides. So the whole fact that I've taken all this time to be more self-aware of like, oh, am I jutting my head force? Yes, I'm doing this so much more often. What am I doing while I'm playing? So now you have all this more, you have just more awareness, and you're able to deal with this and realize that if you don't deal with this immediately, it can cause you lifelong or career-long problems. And it's way just better to just take care of it. And get it seen and get it addressed, and find people that are like, yeah, let me help you out with that right now, instead of, just rest. You just fire those people. I mean,
well, and we think about it too. This particular issue, you've been dealing with for a good bit here at this point,
2
right?
2 years.
Yeah. But you're not being forced to come to a dead stop.
No. COVID helped a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So let's
COVID helped a lot.
But let's cut that part of it out, and let's just act like, I mean, you're able to continue going while you deal with this instead of being forced into an absolute dead stop.
Yeah.
So dealing with it up front, knowing what you're feeling.
Let me back up. When this first started, it's my own fault because I pushed through like I know I shouldn't do. Because I had said yes to this gig where I was going to have to play a recital and I didn't have a flute to play. So I guess I'll do alto flute because I have one of those. And then I was like banging out a whole bunch more push-ups trying to get ready for this military PT test, which you should be preparing for all year round, not just, and it all had to do with just cramming on this, cramming on that. And they didn't go together. Plus whiplash injuries and neck, all these other things, right?
Yeah.
Plus, if you're hypermobile, your body, this is what I've learned in the last couple of years. If you're a hypermobile person, your body is going to seek to find stability wherever it can make it. And if you're not strength training, it's going to bring it towards the spine. So my spine is now super stiff and locked up, and I'm not mobile where I should be because I'm hypermobile in the other areas.
Yep.
So rest was the worst thing I could have done, but it was what I was told. So guess what I did? Didn't help. But in the beginning, I did push through it because I had to do the recital. My own fault. Could I have said, I'm going to take these pieces out? Heck yeah, I was the artist in residence. They didn't care what I played. I could have changed it. I'm like, this is going to be piccolo only. I totally could have done that. Yeah. Did I? No. You have much more control over your life than you think you do.
Right. And side note,
then it had to come to a screeching halt because I couldn't move my top half of my body. Don't spot.
No. But that's because you pushed.
It is exactly why.
And since then you've backed off and we've gotten back to a point where at least you're at an equilibrium and still seeking the right direction. You're not getting behind because you're dealing with this. You know what I mean?
No.
And just total tangent here. I am a huge fan of a 45-minute recital. Huge fan. Oh my God. Nobody wants to listen to you for 90 minutes. I'm sorry.
Can we extend that to these 2-hour-long orchestra concerts? Nobody wants to sit anywhere for 2 hours unless it's a movie, and then that's still a stretch.
Yeah, I don't want to sit for that long anymore.
No,
that's me. But I mean, you think about, and I know a lot of people are like, well, but you're not going to get your money's worth. Take out the intermission. If you add in an intermission in a 45-minute recital, it becomes a 55-minute recital.
Why does money?
And then we're close to an hour. Who cares?
Why does money equate to time spent in the seat, though?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would rather have you come in and hear 45 minutes of really high quality, fun things than 90 minutes of just dragging it out. You know what I mean? And I didn't start realizing that was one of those things that I'm like, no, I have control over that. When I started getting injured, I was like, I can do a shorter recital. It's the same number of pieces. I'm just choosing more selectively. If I'm going to do a really long piece, I'm going to pair it with shorter stuff. I don't have to do all really long pieces. And it's not that I don't have the capacity because my endurance is better than it ever was.
Mm-hmm.
It's that I realized it was kind of not what I liked anyway.
Right?
I got better feedback from the audience after that. They were like, oh my God, it was so fun. I was like, glad I didn't bore you.
No. Isn't that the point of the recital?
That's what I thought. So sorry, that's a total tangent. But
that's what I think. Like, look, if I was a performance major, that means I love to perform, but it's not for me. It's not about look at me. Look, it's like, dude, I'm going to share what I have on the inside with you on the outside, and we're going to enjoy this together. Mm-hmm. That's what it was about. And if they're not having fun, I'm not having fun. If you just get people who sit there all stodgy and they're playing on the phones and they're not paying attention, you're not connecting. And that, so I get your tangent. I see you when I raise that. I know.
Cool.
But yeah, guys, you're not going to be, okay. You will get behind if you don't stop and address something.
Right. But beyond that, so we're just going to sum up here. I think we're at a good point. Yeah. Yeah. So take care of it and you won't actually get behind. Number 2, if you do feel like you're getting behind, check your expectations. Really sit down, have an honest conversation with yourself. Is like, is it really not okay for me to do a 4.5-year undergrad, a 5-year undergrad? Is it really, really not okay for me to not have this job I thought I was going to have? Is it really not okay for me to continue leaning on my day job while I build a reputation in the gig community for a little bit longer, 6 months longer? Like, come on. How long do we perform in the gig world? It's our whole lives. We don't age out of it like other athletes do.
No.
You got to be real old to age out of it. So
yeah,
in the long run, 6 months of taking care of yourself while you get established and take care of something that could be a problem, that's not a big deal. You're going to be okay. And just check in with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're in doubt, talk to somebody that you straight up trust, who also actually cares about your physical and mental well-being and not just what they perceive to be your success. That was a big mistake that I see a lot of people making. You know, they have a best friend or mentor or a close family member who just pushes and pushes and pushes and pushes them because they want to, it's from a good place. They want to see you be successful. But that pushing is not, it's not checking in with, but are you okay now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So find somebody who
Definitely.
cares that you're okay now and in the future, and talk to them, because that person's probably going to give you a pretty good reality check.
Yeah, that's what's important. So
yeah,
beautiful.
Cool.
Thank you guys for joining us. Share,
Yep,
tag, like, comment.
Yeah. Yep. Big one is save it. That's the new algorithm. Save the post so we can be found. And of course, sharing is always a good thing. Help us get the word out there on some of these concepts, because we're just not talking about them as a community yet.
We should be. So hopefully, and please go also check out look at me, I'm trying to combine them all. The Things Musicians Don't Talk About podcast, and go listen to their Musicians Injury Awareness Week. And we would love to hear your thoughts. So tag, like, share, subscribe, and leave us a review, because we'd love to talk to more people. Thank you guys for joining us.
See you next time.